Okay, so it's that time of year when I generally do a review of the previous year, and we're going to do that. I'm really pleased with the way my photography's gone this year. Been out in the land quite a lot, both in Spain and in Shropshire, which is where I am now. You can probably tell by the greyness behind me. But yeah, so I've been pretty pleased. I've been out in the deserts, we've been up the mountains, camping, lots of photography, and a decent percentage of interesting photographs, I think, which I'm going to put in this video. So I wanted to talk a little bit about next year, but before I do, I'll just say I haven't, for one reason or another, had the opportunity to get out in the land, and I'll tell you the reasons. We arrived here, or at least I arrived here. My partner Viv's been here looking after her parents, who are 92 and not doing fantastically well. And so I joined her the week before Christmas. And no sooner had I arrived than the cat got ill. So we took the cat down to the vet. The vet had a look and said, basically it's curtains. We'll do an X-ray. You have to bear in mind that you might have to put her down. And that will cost you around about £1,600 for the X-ray and another £1,000 to put her down. So naturally I wasn't best pleased, especially given that I only pay £100 for an X-ray in Spain for my teeth. So not really seeing the value there. But anyway, long story short, we got her on antibiotics, the cat. Got her home. 2 days later, she's perfectly okay. No tumour. Appetite's returned, swelling's gone down. It was obviously an infection. So not best pleased with that vet. But anyway, moving on from that, 2 days later, my partner Viv went down with appendicitis, Boxing Day. So long and short of it is I've spent somewhere between 24 and 30 hours in accident and emergency in Shrewsbury in the last 3 days. So we've sort of averaged out at about 9 or 10 hours a day. She had the operation yesterday. She's recovered perfectly well. She's coming back today, so I'm hugely relieved about that. If I see the inside of another hospital before hell freezes over, that will be too soon. Okay, so anyway, all's well that ends well, so I'm really delighted about that. The other thing that I wanted to say is I'm standing out here in a field in the freezing cold in Shropshire on a very miserable, cold, cloudy day. And I'm absolutely delighted to be able to do it. One of the things you learn from illness and infirmity and witnessing extreme old age is just how precious our fitness is. And if I didn't know already, I certainly know now. Being able to get out in the landscape is an absolute privilege, and I intend to keep doing it for as long as I can put one foot in front of the other. So photography, we've been out in the landscape a lot this year. Deserts, not so much seascapes. We did a few seascapes at the beginning of the year. Mountains, and really it's been a good year, I think, and I think I'm pretty happy with the results. We've almost sold out our workshops. That's good news. Learned a lot along the way in that respect as well. But yeah, Spain is not on the photography map particularly for reasons that I'll never understand, but fashion is fashion. We have great locations in Spain. But the workshops are selling, and that's great, and I'm very, very pleased about that. So what are we going to be doing this coming year? Well, we're doubling down on the craft element. So I've sort of been thinking in the many hours I've spent in the hospital waiting rooms about the craft element in my photography and about the oncoming AI revolution. And I'm going to double down on craft because I'm much nearer the end of my career than I am to the beginning of it. And I've invested a lot of time, money, effort, energy into learning how to do difficult stuff. And I'm very pleased to have been able to do that. It's a real luxury. It's a real good discipline, like learning a language or learning anything. There are definitely rewards simply in the process, but I love being out in the landscape. And one of the things here is I'm just wandering about this field, and I'm about half a mile from the bypass, which you can probably hear chuntering along in the distance. But I've got this almost uninterrupted view. There's a village called Harley behind me, which I think you can just about see. Perhaps not. I think my head's in the way. But anyway, there's a village called Harley, and there's two other villages, one called Homer and the other one unbelievably called Wig Wig, which are very close. So I'm going to try and get a photograph of the signpost just to prove that that is a thing. There is a village here called Wig Wig. But this is a really ancient landscape. You've got all these oak trees that are really old. The ridgeway, which I'll just rotate, is that ridge behind me. Goes, back to the dinosaurs, basically. I mean, it is a really old piece of geology. And it's a fascinating area. The more you get to know it, the more fascinating it becomes. And I think if I were ever to come back to England, this would probably be where I would come. However, I'm not going to come back to England, so that's an entirely hypothetical question. So what we're going to be doing this year is doubling down on the craft. And what I mean by that, we're going to be focusing on exclusively pretty much on landscape photography. Certainly as so far as this channel is concerned. I will continue to do odd bits of commercial photography as well. But, I have to put food on the table. So when I say landscape photography, I'm going to be looking at some of the craft-driven bits behind that. And what's new to me, a new interest to me, is time-lapse. I've become very interested in real high-fidelity, 6K time-lapse. And so we're going to be seeing some of that. I've invested in a little bit of kit to help that along. The time-lapse season is really upon us because we've got clouds even in Spain. So between now and March, I'll be sort of perfecting, or hopefully perfecting, the craft element of it. And then I'm going to do some videos demonstrating how this is done. So how we do day to night time lapses, this sort of thing. So there's some work to be done there. Also, things like intentional camera movement is something that I've become quite interested in, because it's very frustrating. Your keeper rate is somewhere around 0.1%, I would imagine. Take hundreds of shots, and there's something interesting in one of them. And it's not random, but it is frustrating. And I think there are certain things that you can do to sort of help the process along. But it's very abstract. And I quite like that abstract thing in the landscape. So they'll be looking at that as well. And macro photography, as well. So I think these are some areas that I haven't really explored in previous years, and we're going to be looking quite closely at those, in addition to the normal landscape, the normal hiking and camping stuff that I'm doing. So I think this year is the year to double down for me. We're getting, you know, pedal to the floor. We're going into this new year full of optimism and basically really enjoying the photography and really enjoying the hikes. And I think there's a real connection. I mean, if I look at the amount of time I spend actually taking photographs compared to the amount of time I spend getting there, the getting there is a massively important part of the process. Obviously, I mean, it gets you there, but it's also puts your mind at rest. You sort of calm down, think things through, you know, as you're walking. It's great exercise, very, very good for the soul, as well as for the body. So I couldn't recommend it enough. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. Have a very good new year. And if you've enjoyed this video, if you've enjoyed this review, do give us a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you want to subscribe to a channel that is going to be pretty much exclusively landscape next year. Then this one is as good a shot as any, I'd like to think. So subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the new year. Thanks very much indeed for everything that you have watched, all the time you've spent watching my videos this last year. I'm hugely grateful for. I wouldn't be able to do this obviously without the audience that we've built up, and I think you guys have been fantastic. Thanks very much indeed. All right, see you in the new year. Bye now.